Okay, this will be a Mark Hissingberry drill, 250, 225. Here we go. Was the station wagon on the east side of the roadway when you arrived? Yes, sir, it was. Was the front end of the station wagon pointing toward or away from the east curb towards the east curb? Have you shown that in your diagram? Yes, sir. Could you now draw on this map the position of the station wagon as it was at the point of rest when you arrived? I don't recall whether it was against the curb or possibly a foot or so from the curb. Is it your best recollection that it was close to the curb, either against it or within a foot or two of the curb? Yes, sir, that's correct. Was the rear of the station wagon slightly to the north of the front end of the station wagon? Possibly. I have no independent recollection of this. Is the area where this accident occurred fairly well lit? Yes, sir, it is. After you arrived and conducted an investigation of the accident, did you or your partner assist Mrs. Hall in going from the accident location to her home? Yes, sir, that's correct. Did one of you drive the station wagon from the accident location to Mrs. Hall's home? Yes, sir, I did. Was her home close to the place where this accident occurred? Yes, sir. Did you drive the station wagon from the accident location to her home? Yes, sir, I did. To do that, was it necessary for you to get into the driver's seat of the station wagon? That's correct. You have indicated the area was fairly well lit. Is that correct, sir? Yes, sir. Was an ambulance present when you arrived? Yes, sir. Did the ambulance approach the area from the north? I'm assuming it did. It was parked just south of the vehicle in question. Do you recall whether it had its lights on? Yes, it did. When you parked your vehicle, did you park south of the station wagon? Yes. Were the headlights on your vehicle shining towards the station wagon? Yes, sir. Do you know whether or not Mrs. Hall requested or was offered medical assistance by the ambulance personnel? Yes, sir. Do you know whether she declined or accepted medical assistance from the ambulance personnel? She refused medical assistance. Do you recall whether you or your partner also asked her if she would accept medical assistance? I have no independent recollection of this. When you got into the station wagon before driving to Mrs. Hall's home, was it necessary for you to familiarize yourself with the control systems in the station wagon? Yes, sir. Did this include the location of the accelerator pedal? Yes, sir. The brake pedal? Yes. The steering gear adjusting lever? Yes. The handbrake? Yes. When you sat in the car familiarizing yourself with the car, did you have the door open so that the lights inside the car would not be on? I don't recall whether I had the door open or not after I sat down. Do these appear to you to represent Deep Canyon at the time of the accident? I have known Deep Canyon over what period of time? The last 6 years. To your knowledge, have there been any changes in the roadway in Deep Canyon over the last 6 years? Not to my knowledge. Have you inspected Deep Canyon over the last 6 years to see if there had been any changes? No, sir, I have not. Do you know whether there have been or not? I do not know. Do you know whether the course of Deep Canyon has been changed at all in the last 6 years? Not to my knowledge. Have you made any attempt to find out? No, sir, I have not. Did you make an inspection of the roadway on the evening of the accident? I'm sure I did. I don't have any independent recollection of this. Is what you are saying that if you did inspect the roadway, you don't recall what your inspection disclosed? That is correct. Do you know whether Deep Canyon has been resurfaced within the last 6 years? No, sir, I do not. Do you know whether it's been widened within the last 6 years? Not to my knowledge. Do you know? No, I do not. Do you know whether this center lane is the same center line that's been there for the last 6 years? I don't know. When was the last time you were out in this area of Deep Canyon Boulevard? A week ago. Were you requested to go out there by someone? Yes, I was. Who requested that you go out there? Mr. Joe Randolph. Did Mr. Randolph tell you why he was requesting that you go out there? Well, I'll have to retract that statement. Oh, on this particular date, he did not necessarily instruct me to go out to Deep Canyon, but to go to an address on Stanley Drive. Was that address 3131 Stanley Drive? Yes, sir, that's correct. Is that Mrs. Hauser's residence? That was the address given at the time of the accident. I have no knowledge as to whether she lives there now or not. Do you have any recollection of what the roadway appeared to be like on the night of the accident? It appeared to be, as the photographs show, an asphalt roadway. It was approximately 40 feet in width with a set of double yellow lines running down the center of the roadway. These pictures appear to have been in daylight, don't they? Yes, sir, that's correct. Well, do you know whether you were asked to go out there in connection with this case? I assume so. Did you go out there on your spare time or while you were on duty? On my way home. You stated before that not only were you asked to go up to Mrs. Hauser's home, but you were also asked to go to the approximate location of the accident on Deep Canyon. Is that true? That's correct. Who requested that you go there, Mr. Randolph? When were you requested to go to the approximate location of the accident on Deep Canyon? Approximately 3 or 4 weeks ago. And when did you actually go? Approximately the same time. Are you a police officer with the city of Milwaukee? Yes, sir. Calling your attention to the 28th day of January of this year. Did you see the defendant on that day? Yes, sir, I did. And will you tell us where you saw him? When I first saw him, it was on South Main Street. What was he doing, if anything? He was just pulling off the main highway. Was he walking or what? No, sir, he was driving a vehicle. Okay. Can you describe this vehicle to me? Yes, sir. It was a 1988 Ford, blue in color. Did you look at him at that time? Yes, sir. And did you observe his eyes? Yes, sir, I did. What were they like? They were very bloodshot. Did you observe the appearance of his face? Yes. What was that? It was flushed. Did you talk to him? Yes. What was the manner of his speech? Well, I described it as thick-tongued and aggressive. Speak up a little more, officer, please. He was very thick-tongued in speech and had what we call a smart attitude. Did you see him walk on this occasion? Yes, sir, I did. What was the manner of his walk? Very staggering. Very what? Very staggering. Did you see him turn on one foot? He tried to turn on one foot. And did he accomplish that? He was unable to do that. He couldn't turn? No, sir. Did you see him do anything else? When I first got out of the car, I asked him to step out of his car. He was unable to stand straight. He had to fall back against the car several times to keep his footing. And did you have him do anything with his hands? No, sir, I didn't. Did you smell his breath? Yes, sir. What was it like? A very strong alcohol odor. Now, have you seen people in the past that you knew to be intoxicated? Yes, sir. Were you able to form an opinion at this time as to the condition of the defendant as to sobriety? Yes, sir, I was. And what was that? Very intoxicated. Now, just prior to this, had you seen the gentleman who was sitting in the back of the courtroom in the red jacket? Yes, sir, I have. And where was that? That was in front of the Prescott bookstore. What did you observe at that time, if anything? About his condition, yes, he had a small laceration over his right eye, more on the temple side. He had a large, I call it a laceration. It was a break on the skin. I believe it was on the inside of his left leg, about 8 inches above the ankle. Could you speak up a little louder, please? He had a large break in the skin, about 8 inches above the ankle. Did you have to travel frequently in your job? Well, I would like to define what you mean, and then I will answer the question. How often did you leave home in a period of a month? I would say I would be gone once a week. You would leave home once a week? Yes. Do you mean one day a week? Would you go for any period of time extending beyond one day? I have not taken all my trips and averaged them out. If I had to do that, they would average out to one trip a week, which would encompass leaving in the morning of one day, staying overnight, and returning home the next afternoon. Have you ever made trips that extended for a period of 4 to 5 days? Yes, I have. How frequently has this happened where you would be gone for a period of 4 or 5 days? In my present employment, it has happened twice. In my previous employment, I really can't remember, but I would say it probably happened at least 6 times. Is that aside from your 1 day a week or 2 days a week? No, there would be similar type trips, but it required my staying for longer periods.